content, a little bit of entertainment with interesting people telling you about their situation in quarantine and just giving a little bit of a different perspective. And I'm delighted to welcome back a man I haven't talked to in person for a little while. John Connors, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I was just saying that you're looking very, very well groomed there altogether for a man who can't get out and get a haircut. The beard is trimmed.
That's trim. Oh, that's just the way it's going, man. I'm like a fucking grizzly bear, man.
Yeah, look at this. I look like fucking Santa gone wrong here. I don't know what the problem is, you know. Listen, I wanted to talk to you today, John, because I've been swanning around in Stockholm and Sweden and all this kind of thing and bringing in sort of different perspectives and that. And one of the perspectives that I'm missing is your perspective. So two things. One is you personally, because I know that you were self-isolating there for a little while. So I'd like to ask you, how are you? How's the health at this point in time?
I'm good, man. Yeah, I was showing symptoms, and for about 5 or 6 days, it was pretty bad, man. Like really bad temperature, the likes of which I've never seen before in any flu. So I think I've had it, man. But I think I had it. I never got tested because I'm only 30. I've no underlying conditions. I ended up getting a text back from the HSE saying they weren't going to test me, which. Look, two ways to look at it. One, it pissed me off because I wanted to know because of me family and people around me and mixing. But two, then I'm going, listen, grand if I beat it, and fucking older people should be definitely preferenced and people who are sick, you know what I mean? So, but right now I'm grand. I'm symptom free, probably 5 or 6 days. And still self-isolating. I'm in my own trailer here, so to let people know I'm living in a campsite. And my mother lives over here, my granny lives here, and we're all kind of self-isolating, keeping a social distance in between each other. But luckily we've kind of a wide open space where we can walk around a bit. We've a gym there that we're all taking turns in, so it's not too bad, you know.
How did you pass the time, John, when you were sitting at home? Because were you sort of on Netflix? Have you seen all the films on Netflix now, have you?
Yeah, man, I can't even watch Netflix now. It's just, there's nothing on it that interests me. Man, like I was 5 or 6 days there, fucking just really bad anxiety about it. Yeah. Because you don't know, and then you're researching it, and you know, and the clickbait stuff is coming up, and you know, they're dying and all this. But after that, I was like, I'm grand in, and it felt better. And what I tried to do was give myself a structure, so things that I wanted to catch up and doing, which was a lot of reading of stuff, a couple of books that I wanted to read, but also a lot of scripts that were sent to me that I had to read. And then I needed to write, which I'm always making an excuse not to write. So I get up in the morning, I do some writing, and then I do some reading, and then I'd catch up on a load of box set stuff that I wanted to watch as well. So that's the way it's been. Now we've incorporated training into a training every day, back on a diet, no excuses, you know, so that it's kind of getting a structure and a routine. To be fair, the last 5 or 6 days, I don't mind it too much. I want to start back my training, you know, because it's good for the head.
Well, when you were sitting there, John, and you're watching stuff, right? That's actually work for you. Can you sit there and can you sort of turn off the actor, director, writer part of your brain and just enjoy some drama for what it is? Or do you find yourself going, Jesus, that's a well-written character, or he should have done this, or he should have done that? Is there any enjoyment in television for you anymore?
If it's really good, yeah. If it's really good. If it's not, I'm just going, okay, now I know what's going wrong there, and that's expositional dialogue. I don't really like structure this. That's a cliche move in the character. You know what I mean? But if it's something that's raw and original, for sure, you definitely get engrossed in it. I mean, I'd hate if it couldn't be like that for me, because this is why I got into acting. Yeah. It's because I love watching films. I love watching TV shows, and there's a lot of good TV shows out there now. Like I can't even catch up with all of them. You know what I mean? But I've just went back to. I'm now in season 3 of watching The Shield, which I watched 5 years ago. For me, is the most underrated TV show of all time. And when I'm saying underrated, it's never in the conversation of great TV shows. And it came out in the time of The Sopranos and The Wire, mixed in around that time. I went under the radar bit, but for me, a really, really good TV show. And it's like a richer Prison Break for me, because Prison Break is a little bit too cheap for the trills and spills of it. You know what I mean? Cliffhanger stuff. It's not really. This is kind of a better and more in-depth character study version of that. You know what I mean? That kind of pace, and you know, and also docudrama type of visuals, which I think is brilliant. So I'm in season 3 and I'm loving it. I'm trying to spare it. You know? Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, you remember years ago when you used to have to sort of gather around the TV, you know, Love Hate was probably one of those kinds of TV events that we still had back at the time. But like, again, that thing of layered characters, I get really bored really quickly if it's one dimensional kind of thing, you know. But is watching that, is that influence on what you're writing now? Are you writing anything you can share with us, or is that secret for now?
No, man, listen, I'm writing loads of shit, man. I have a script there written now. It's called Bless Us Father. And I co-wrote it with my producer, Turner Williams, and we based it on a short that I wrote before. It's about the generational impact of clerical abuse. And it's about this character who went through that, went through the system, the industrial system. He ends up being a heroin addict. And we meet him when he's in his 50s, full of trauma, and he's homeless. And he has to go through the system. It's the redress board,
Yeah.
and he has to prepare for that. But what he does, he can't. He's so repressed that he can't get any of this stuff out. And he goes back to visit his old industrial school, and he camps up there, and there he meets this young man who he connects with. Wow. And all his past kind of comes back to haunt him. So that's one thing. And then I have another traveller script, which for me it's set in the travelling community, but what it's about is the breakup of the Gaelic clan to a culture of Gaelic Ireland, and it's something that's kind of political but also very personal to me, semi-autobiographical. So mixing about with both of them, writing both of them, and I have loads of other stuff. I keep kind of switching from project to project. I get a bit bored, I'll go to that and whatever. And I was asked to, out of the blue there last week, was it a week and a half ago, the Abbey asked me to write a monologue to address the whole situation, the COVID thing. So I wrote that in a couple of days, and that's going to be coming out in, I think next week they're going to start releasing them. So man, I'm just trying to do loads of writing and stay busy, because now I've no excuse. I always make excuses. Now I've no excuse, so I'm just kind of pulling the sleeves up, you know.
One of the great excuses that you had recently was the success of your one-man show, Ireland's Call. But now you're kind of prevented, because obviously you can't travel around the country and perform at the moment. So I've seen you sort of promoting the show an awful lot, but could you just sort of describe to me and the people who haven't seen it yet what the premise of the show is? You know, for people who haven't heard it, is it, are you telling a story? Is this a polemic? What is the show for people who are going to go and see it now when this crisis is over?
So it's a one-man show. I do it in a very kind of shanicky realist way. That's the way to describe it. Not really. You don't really see this kind of theatre. It's almost anti-theatre, and it's about three young lads who grew up on the north side of Dublin, and the three of them are sort of rejects, and that's why they connect with each other. James, who we tell the story through, his mother and father were heroin addicts, and he grew up with that stigma attached to him. And his friend Pato, his father is from Nigeria, his mother from Ireland, but he grew up with that dual identity, kind of fucked up, not sure what to do, getting bullied. And then also the other friend is called English, the third friend, who again has the identity issues. Plus his father is from Derry, his mother's from Derry, his father was in the IRA. And they're three sort of rejects. And they get involved in a bit of crime and messing and drugs. But what it's really about is, it's about the trauma of Ireland. It's about Irish psyche. And it's about everything that we sweep underneath the carpet and just leave it there, because we're really good at that. We're really good at suppressing things in this country. And that culture has been there for a long time. And the Catholic Church played its part, but we still have that. We want to forget, and we want to forget the very recent past. So I'm exploring that trauma, and I'm exploring clerical abuse, austerity, I'm exploring addiction, suicide, and mental health, colonialism, the Troubles, you name it. I'm getting all the dirty secrets, all the things we don't want to talk about, all the uncomfortable stuff, and I'm throwing it all there in a story that is proved to be pretty compelling, because for me it's about stories. So it's not just about, it's not John Connor's ranting. Like the first 20 minutes, it's like a comedy, because the whole thing is the three lads who always dreamed of going to Ibiza ever since they saw the film Kevin and Barry Go Large. So they found Ibiza, and it's comedy after comedy. And actually, man, like I remember doing it for a school, and a lot of people were like, one of the teachers got the school to come to it because she kind of followed me on Twitter, and she knows, and she watched my documentaries, and she knows I'm very political, and she thought, if this is a show come from John Connor, there's going to be a lot of like nutrition for these young people to watch, you know. So she brought them thinking there was going to be a lot of, and then 20 minutes of just absolutely glorifying drugs and saying cunt a million times. And you see the people rolled, they're all twitching. But I'm there like going, just wait, because we had loads of walkouts over that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm just there like, wait, because what goes up comes down, because we structured it like a drug buzz. Like you go up high and then you come down, boom, and you get the darkness. That's the way it's done, you know?
Yeah. It sounds amazing. Actually, just before I was talking to you today, a couple of hours ago, I was asked to do a lecture online for this university in Gothenburg in the west of the country. And at the end of it, I was talking about an awful lot of the things that you've just been talking about there, right? About the church, about basically, the 100 years of a republic that we've had that has basically been a letdown in a way. And at the end of it, one of the girls who was interviewing me, she said, so are you okay? And she says, yeah, I'm very angry. I said, well, you fucking should be. I'm very angry, and I'll be angry to my grave about these things, But when you're writing things like that, John, I know there's so much to be mined there. There are so many stories to be told, and from what you're telling me, you're writing here. Are you interested in, boy meets girl, these kind of happy clappy things, or do you think that your career is now going to be spent mining that seam of anger and of righteousness?
My whole purpose, man, in art is to explore. First of all, from a writing perspective and directing and the filmmaking side of things, especially to explore Ireland and our psyche, because everything I want to write and make in Ireland it's about Ireland. Like I'm not thinking about make it big as a director and I'll go to Hollywood and make some fucking Marvel film or something. And I'm not saying I wouldn't go to Hollywood and make some sort of film, something in the fucking Scorsese kind of world. Who knows? But I mean, everything I want to do as a writer is exploring Ireland and our ways and our mindset and who we are. That's and our identity, our past, our collective trauma, our community, our sense of humor, everything. It's just, and our goods, our bads, our faults, our flaws. Everything I want to do is related to that. I'm breaking that down. And then in a broader general sense, the human condition. But it's cliched, but just figuring out what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm constantly going, what's going on here? And trying to look at things in different ways, abstract ways. So it's always going to be about that for me, man. That's my whole purpose in the arts.
Yeah.
As a special writer and director. As an actor, you kind of just gotta, be a bit of a whore and take what you got. You know what I mean? Like you're a gunslinger, essentially. But you're trying your best to get some good stuff. And I've turned down some fucking big work, man, like big projects, because I didn't agree with the politics of it. Like I turned down a big American war movie, which was hard to turn down, but it was a lot of money at the time, and I turned it down because I didn't believe in the politics of the film.
Yeah.
And in the next months, I was fucking starving. You know what I mean? But this is the way it happens, man, and it comes in swings and roundabouts. But you kind of have to make decisions and stand by them sometimes. And some people don't understand, but as an artist, you got to stand by what you believe in, man, and you got to put your money where your mouth is, or you ain't worth nothing, in my opinion. And actually, man. One of the big things I'm always talking about, in Ireland, we have always, as artists, right, we've always had artists have always responded to what's happening in Ireland. I mean, during colonialism, going back to Gaelic Ireland, going back to the 1798 rebellion, this 1916 rise and the Troubles. Artists have been in the forefront of expressing creatively and seeing what's happening. And trying to find out what's happening, also actually physically fighting on the front lines. And now what I'm seeing we're missing the last 20 years or so is we don't have that. We don't have enough artists responding to what's happening in our country, what's happening in the world. In that sort of way, there's not enough of that for me. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm not going to stop doing it anyway. I'm going to continue to what I'm doing.
Yeah. When I was sort of growing up in the 80s or a teenager in the 80s, I'm a little bit older than you, but I remember the British protest singer Billy Bragg, and I remember he was like, my guy, and I've been thinking to myself, where are the Billy Braggs of this generation? And to be fair, you're one of them. You're the guy who's out there putting his heart on the sleeve, But one question I really want to ask you from what you were talking about there, right? I write soccer novels in Swedish for teenagers. I usually say that I write books for people who don't read, but it's just to give them something that they'd be interested in to read, right? But I discovered that usually after I finish a book, the book turns out to be something completely different to what I thought it was, right? So 10 years ago, when I wrote a book about the Irish community here in Sweden, it wasn't about Gaelic games, it wasn't about Gaelic football, it wasn't even about me. It was a postcard to my father. I was trying to tell my father that I was okay here, right? I recently wrote a book that's about bullying in a soccer club, but it turns out when I read it back, it's not about bullying, it's about power and who holds the power. So when you write, John, do you ever find surprises in your work when you're finished? Do you ever find a work that says to you, oh, I'm actually about something completely different?
100%. Man, listen, I wrote Ireland's Call. I totally get what you're coming from, man. I wrote Ireland's Call in 2 sit-down sessions, probably about 6 hours each time. I just texted the whole thing into my phone, and it was a 2-hour monologue, which I eventually condensed down to 1 hour. And what I didn't realise, man, I wrote it in 2018, what I didn't realise, the whole fucking thing was me dealing with my father's death after 20 years.
Wow.
completely suppressing all, because I never grieved for my father. He died when I was 8 through suicide. I never grieved. I never felt sad really. Like I cried. I remember when I heard him initially when the guards came in. I thought I was a little kid and cried, but I never. And then that shit fucked me up so much. I never realized it. And it was so obvious, but it's the most obvious thing. Oh, he's had to lose his father by suicide when he was young. It's obviously he's reacting like that. Obviously he's acting out like that. Obviously he's had to cry. But I never saw it because it was right there at me. And after 20 years, I'm about to stand up on stage in Bewley's and premiere the show without doing any rehearsals, not knowing if I even have the lines. And I just realised that after 20 years, this is about me trying to grieve and get over my father. I didn't even know, because the story was about a father and son, and it wrote itself. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I mean, this is the. So just write sometimes like exactly what you're talking about, man.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I was lucky. I was sitting at my kitchen fucking table when I realised that this book was about power. But you were about to go on stage when you made this realisation.
Yeah, I took a full-blown panic attack as well.
Jesus.
Full-blown, literally full-blown panic attack when I got 15 seconds. You get 15 seconds. You get 5 minutes, then you just get 15 seconds, and then you're hearing your introduction and the fire safety stuff, and that's it. Then you have to go on the stage, and it was just panic attack, full-blown panic attack. And then I just said to myself, I have a good way of always kind of psyching myself up, but just said to myself, I'm doing it anyway, so fuck it. And then boom, subsided, got on the stage, and that was it. Then got a standing ovation that night. So you just don't know, man. You just don't know how things.
And it's been a hugely successful play ever since. But now, John, I've got to ask you a question here. If you don't feel like answering this question, that's fine. We move on to the next thing. But does how your father died make any difference in how you grieve him? Or did that stop you? And the question I'm really trying to ask you is, it pertains to the travelling community and the level of suicide that's there. But are you allowed, do you feel that you're allowed to grieve somebody who has died by suicide? Or, is that in some way something that you should just move on from, that you should ignore in a different way maybe to your grandmothers, who I know you have a huge amount of sort of love and respect for, and you've spoken about a lot in public? Did you find any difference between the two?
Yeah, there's a big difference, because there's still that stigma. Back then, 22 years ago now, big stigma, and we were constantly being like bullied, and bullied by your daddy killed himself, and it was a real shame thing.
Yeah.
So you're like, and then also I felt like when after a couple of years of bullying, and I developed into a teen, and my brain was thinking, I was in puberty and all that, I started blaming him. Then I was like, we got bullied, and because we had no father, because, with families you need to have a father, show you the way, all that kind of thing. So I started blaming him, and I started hating him. So I never got, but then I'd say when 1920, when I got really depressed myself and became close to suicide myself, then I started having empathy towards him. And I started to wake up from it all and seeing, like, if he was in that sort of pain to do that, it must have been a lot of pain, and I felt a lot of hard for him. But I still didn't kind of grieve his death again a couple of years ago. It's mad. Yeah, but yeah, it's a different thing because it's suicide,
Could I ask you a little bit, John, about the situation now? Because, again, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you in particular was this COVID-19 situation is affecting everybody all over the world. But how is it different for travelling people? I don't see travelling people. It's only yourself and Cindy Joyce and maybe Eileen Fionn and this kind of thing that I see talking about it at all. Is there any conversation? Is there any special support? Are you being offered anything as a community in order to sort of help you through this time?
I haven't personally, anyway. I think travellers and Roma have been put on a priority list, which means you get tested quicker. But that came in after I asked for my test. But like, if I'm being honest with you, I don't agree with that anyway, to be honest. I think you shouldn't be put on a priority like that in that way. But I think there should be things catered to our needs because of the way we live and the way we're forced to live. But if you look at our site, like, to be honest with you, it's scaring the bejesus out of me, because we all live in sites, like, not all of us, but most of us live in sites. And even the ones that don't live in sites go back and forward into the sites all day long. So I'm scared, because if it just hits a site, then fucking that whole site has it. So Cara Park, a mile up the road from me, 2 or 3 people now have it up in Cara Park, so it's spreading like wildfire. So because we're in sort of groupings in a closed circle, I'm really fucking terrified of it all. And because travellers have fucking ignorant points of view towards medical care already, and our health in general is not as good, and 50% of us die before 39 because we have a sort of carelessness towards health, and we go, fuck it. I'm genuinely worried about come September, man, the population of travellers. Like, I'm genuinely worried in that. like I know that the mortality rates are it gets worse and worse the more strain there is on the healthcare system.
Of
So
course.
we've seen that. We look at Italy and Italy start now 10% of people are dying in Italy because of the strain on the healthcare system. So I'm worrying about when it gets to that level in Ireland, and we can't cope with it. Then I know that's when travelers are going to be hit really bad, man. And our population is already tiny, so I'm really, really worried about that. So that's why I'm sending out videos regularly to travelers saying, wash your hands, keep your social distance, and please stay within your own. Let's not be selfish, all this kind of thing. Because I'm genuinely worried, man. Because the worst is yet to come in Ireland. You know what I mean? There's a lot of gloating and there's a lot of people praising Varadkar, and listen, I know I'm not his biggest fan. I still can't because, like, I look at when the Ireland team were meant to play rugby with Italy, and it got cancelled. But yet we still let dozens of planes in from Italy that weekend, and then up in the Clayton Hotel up beside me, the Dublin Clayton Hotel, a family member works in there. 18 of them were taken out in quarantine and tested because they all showed symptoms then after the weekend in Ireland. And I'm going, what the fuck? And then they let 20,000 back from Cheltenham without screening them or testing them, which we're still only seeing now the effects of that. And anyway, we've a low amount of cases because we're not testing enough. We don't know how many we really have. But I mean, you go on Twitter and you say this, you'd swear like Leo Varadkar was God. And Fine Gael have all their bots as well that they're paying and all. But I mean, this is crazy. Like, you can't even criticize him. And now there's all this stunts of he's going to be he's doing 1 day a week now as an he's going to be fucking answering phone calls, I'd say. But 1 day a week, and he's looking. This is all about his comeback. I know he's already resigned, but mark my words, he's going to come back. I'm going to say take back the resignation. I can see it happening. Anyway, it doesn't matter anyway because Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are going to get a coalition government one way or another. So, I mean, it's just crazy, man. Do you know what's interesting, actually?
Yeah.
Conor McGregor getting involved in politics. And he seems to know what he's talking about a bit. He's next.
Do you want to hear something funny, do you? I was putting together the people that I wanted to talk to for this, right? And I was sending messages to a couple of people like yourself and to Marion Keys and that kind of thing. And I sent a message to Conor and I never got a message back. But Jesus, 24 hours later, he was on Instagram there having a crack, and I thought, yeah, that's it. We have a political career going on there. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'd love to talk to him about it because the important thing is that there's perspectives get out here. I've been very, very calm. I haven't been having a go at people personally like Leo or anything else like that, right? Let him at it. Let him do what he's doing. But politicians in particular, will never waste a good crisis. So, there's always a chance there. If there's a chance to do something, I show. So, and again, I'm not going to, I don't want to criticise him personally at this point in time. He's doing what he's doing, and I think that there's so few people actually know what they are up to. But again, just to get back to the travelling community, John, you mentioned there about healthcare and that kind of thing. Would you feel, now I don't mean you personally, I'm asking you to speak on behalf of the community, right? What do people think about going to the doctor, going to the emergency room? Is it something they feel comfortable doing, or do they not feel welcome there, or why do they not want to go?
Don't go. The attitude is don't go to the hospital, you'll end up dying in the hospital. That's the attitude. That is the attitude.
So that's only full of sick people?
Yeah, especially from travellers middle age and older, and young travellers too, but middle age and older. Like, I'm not going to the hospital, I'll be found dead in the hospital. That's the attitude. See, you have to remember, man, for years and years, we had our own cures for many different ailments. And real legit, like there's a fella called Ian McDonough. He won Young Scientist of the Year 2 years ago. He's a traveller. He collected various traveller cures, and I think it added up to 32.
Wow.
And the HSE tested them, done trials, and all of them were legit and verified.
That's good.
32 cures the travellers had, and there's many more, right? Now, what that goes down to, that's not some hokey-pokey fucking whatever. When you're nomadic people and you live off the land is your habitat, that you have that to survive. So you are constantly looking and searching for things that will help, and you find a way. That's what happens. You find a way. Like when I was 9 or 10, I was riddled with warts, right? All over my hands, man. And it was disgusting. My hands were sweaty and I was getting bullied in school and all this. And my grandfather, who passed away last June, he's my fucking hero. He was like a Gaelic chieftain. He was a great man. He came over to me and he said, look, John, I have a cure for that. And I said, yeah. So he gave me a cure. He brought me down to the end of the field. And went down to the end of the field. And he took about 4 or 5 snails, maybe 6 snails, put 3 in each hand, wrapped it around, with a cloth in each hand and told me to say a prayer or whatever, right? After 3 days, all my warts were gone. They're all gone. Right? Now, this is not magic. There's obviously, Philip, something in the snails, their saliva or whatever they produce that has to react on the skin. But travellers figured that out.
Yeah.
So there's lots of, you know what I mean? So it was always the way we do our, but then when you're railroaded, you're put into your own site and you don't have the same habitat, you know, you change. You know what I mean? And this is what it is. So there's no, travellers have no trust in government. They've no trust in the educational system. They've no trust in any institution. I mean, look, put it there. Here's something. So 2016, a whistleblower came out and we discovered that traveller children were put on the criminal database from birth. So considered criminals from birth, right? Travellers were still segregated up until about a year ago in school. They're talking about bringing that back in. I was segregated. I was only 30 years of age. I'm only 30 and I was segregated in school. How can you have any trust? We can't get into clubs, pubs, restaurants, hotels, gyms, shopping centres. We get refused from daily. And sometimes blatantly telling us why you're a traveller, we're not allowing you. I mean, we just don't have any trust. So there's that fear always. Like, there's a paranoia of literally, I'm a traveller. They're not going to help me if I go in there, or they might kill me even. You know what I mean? That level of paranoia.
Yeah.
So that's what's there in the community, and that's what's stopping them from looking after themselves, you know.
There's an interesting parallel there, John, because when the COVID-19 outbreak happened in Sweden, right, partially it was the same thing, people going to Italy, going skiing, coming home, bringing it back with them, right, but it wound up happening then among the Swedish Somali community, right. There's a lot of people from Somalia who live where I live, so they've left the civil war there, they came to Sweden seeking refuge, but they have a very, very similar attitude to what you have, because every experience they have had with the authorities here has been a negative one. They're the ones stopped and they're the ones searched and they're the ones not allowed into the nightclubs. And then now what's happening now is it's not just a passive thing. It's not just I'm not going to go there. They're the ones who are talking about, oh, this is all a fraud. It's a gimmick. It's not a real thing. It's only the flu, you know. And that sort of counter thing, you know, it's actually making things worse. And like, I mean, I grew up in a house with three generations. Three generations. My grandmother, my parents and ourselves, right? And it's a similar thing among travellers and many Irish people to do that. But if I bring that disease in, and the same thing as, you know, if you bring a disease into a site or into a trailer, you know, and it's the same thing, you would have people living in apartments and you might have 3 generations, 8, 9, 10 people in something where a Swedish family in inverted commas would be living with maybe, you know, 2 parents and 2 kids kind of thing, you know. So is anybody in your community, are they making any sort of, are they changing anything? It would say, for instance, now on the site that you're on at the moment now, would somebody say, right, we'll take one trailer and if somebody's not feeling well, they can go and isolate there? Is that even possible for you to do?
No, we're doing, like, my grandmother won't leave her trailer, so she won't. She's clever enough, like she's 77 and she's not in good health, so she knows. But there's still a bit of mixing about a bit that I'm trying to eliminate with some of the family. No one comes in and out of mine. I'm just in here myself. So yeah, we're trying to take them measures. We're kind of more isolated as a family, a bigger family together, rather than 1 or 2 groupings. You know, that kind of way. It's just a traveller way. And I mean, until probably, do you know what the gas thing is? Until someone on my side probably gets it, they're not going to take it this as serious as you should take it. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the unfortunate thing. That's what's had to happen at my car park up in Coolock. 3 or 4 of them have it now. They're all self-isolating and not leaving their houses or not leaving the trailers, you know.
But even the fact that you've exhibited symptoms now and that you've been in the trailer by yourself for about 2 weeks, they haven't sort of seen that as being, it's not official with you as far as they're concerned, is it?
Oh, and it's about half the family are, like, the older people are being smart, and my mother and all that. It's all the young fellas, because we have a lot of young fellas in this camp, and they're like, whatever the fuck, and they all think they're invincible. Yeah. And they are invincible in a way, like in comparison to an older person. You know what I mean? Like, so it's talking to them and fucking trying to copy. I'm in a WhatsApp group with all of them, so I'm trying to fucking coach them all and say, cop the fucking hand to yourselves. So bit by bit, it's getting better.
You were talking about the cabin fever there. Is it getting close to the point where you're just going to go nuts and run naked down the beach somewhere, or will you be able to stick it out for another little while?
Oh my God. No, man, you know what I'm doing? So now the training has helped me massively. So I'm just getting up in the morning, get me writing done, get me training done, come back, get me meal, then do me reading, and then chill, decompress, listen to some music, and then get me box sets in, and I have that structure every day now. So that's helped me. But the training is the biggest part of it, because you're releasing endorphins, dopamine, you're fucking rushing, it feels fucking deadly. And I'd be in the gym there, blast the stereo, do a bit of dancing as I'm hitting the bag, and you just kind of buzz, you know. And I think that's right. The physical activity is very important.
And in the back of your mind now, are you training for a super fight against Brian McFadden? Is that where this is leading?
Oh, God, no. I don't think I'd have to train for old Brian.
You can sit in your armchair and do that shit. But I,
You know, people took that very serious, and that if you look at the things I was saying to them, man, charge them again crimes against humanity for music and all that. But like at the end of the day, man, he's just an old fella trying to make a few old bob. He's doing that, and fair play to him. I was only having a crack at him, but we were meant to have a charity fight before. That's why I brought it up the last time, but it sort of just blew up then. But I'm not. Listen, I'm not against Brian, and Brian has never fought in his life, and it wouldn't be fair at all. You know what I mean? I was just having the buzz on him.
It was good crack, all right. But there are two things I'd pay to see. One of them is John Connors taking on Brian McFadden in a boxing match. But another thing I would definitely pay to see is you perform in Ireland's Call. But listen, before I let you go, there's one more thing that I need to ask you about. You are bringing out a film in the very near future. Now, obviously, the plans changed. We can't have a red carpet premiere in O'Connell Street or that kind of thing. Tell me about the film and where people can see it and how they can support you.
Yeah, so right now, it's Tuesday tomorrow. We're releasing online on Vimeo Pro, "Endless Sunshine and a Cloudy Day," which won the Audience Award at the Dublin International Film Festival last month, which I directed. It's a documentary, so that's out tomorrow online, the 7th. And then I've Broken Law, which is like a gangster film. It's out in the cinemas. It was meant to be May. That's going to be pushed back. And then Black Medicine, and then Bend in the River are 3 feature films that I've done that are all going to be coming out at some point this year anyway.
And most importantly, you'll be coming out of your trailer at some point in the near future as well. John, I wish you all health and wealth and success, and as soon as there's a plane back in the sky to Dublin, I'm going to come over and we can sit down and we'll have a cup of tea somewhere up there and we'll catch up. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
No bother, brother.